visible to all of you?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Abhijit, for your nice invitation. So, Dr. Manish Kumar Pandey is currently working in the Department of Center for Quantitative Economics and Data Science, Birla Institute of Technology, Mesra. He completed his MSc and PhD from IIT BHU. His research interests include artificial intelligence for climate change analytics, hyperspectral data analytics, big data analytics in agriculture, web services recommendation, machine learning for vehicular and financial analytics, and cloud computing. Dr. Pandey has 17 research publications in journals of international reputation, 8 publications in international conferences, and 5 publications in research books. He attended numerous national and international conferences and workshops. He is a co-author of the book Big Data Analytics, Algorithms and Applications, Academic Press, Elsevier, Cambridge, MA02139, USA. He worked as a research scientist B at DST Mahanamana Center for Excellence in Climate Change Research, Institute of Environment and Sustainable Development, Benares Hindu University, Varanasi. He also worked as a research associate in a project funded by the National Mission on Himalayan Studies, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, entitled Hyperspectral Imaging for Sharper Definitions of Himalayan Ecosystems and its high-value plant species under climate uncertainty. He also worked as a project engineer in Wipro Technologies, Bangalore, in providing software solutions in telecom domain. He worked as a resource person in the second national workshop on techniques in hyperspectral data analysis and processing held between 27 to 31st January 2020. He worked in the organization of the International Conference on Modeling and Simulation of Diffusive Process and Applications, organized as a part of Silver Jubilee celebration of the Department of Computer Science, Benares Hindu University, Varanasi, during 9th to 12th October. He received BHU medal from Honorable Vice President of India, late Sri Bhoiron Shekhawat, Srimati Gargi Devi Silver Medal, and Dr. Basudev Saini Gold Medal for becoming first in BSc Honours exam in 2006. He received BHU medal for standing first in MSc Honours exam 2008. He received certificate of appreciation in Medhavi Khetro Abhinandan Samaraha 1998 to 1999, organized by Seva Bharati Uttar Pradesh. He received Cisco Wipro CDF Excellence Vibrant Award for making a difference in 2009 and 2010. He received Cisco Wipro CDF Excellence Trailblazer Award for Best Project Delivery in 2009. So I request Dr. Pandey to please deliver your talk. I hope it will help our colleagues and all the MSc students they have joined in the webinar. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot for the kind words. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the organizers of Siksha Anusandhan weekly academic lectures for providing me a platform to share my views in the area of data science. This again would be an opportunity to motivate young researchers in taking up the real life challenges and provide useful to usable information. Coming back to the topic, my talk is entitled Fundamentals of Data Science, its life cycle and research perspectives in the third computing paradigm. My presentation would be distributed primarily into these submodules. So I'll introduce what this third computing paradigm is, and how we needed to break the shackles with the emergence of this era. Next, I would discuss what is the life cycle of data science, as well as the task artifacts association in the life cycle. Few fundamentals of data science that needs attentions of the researchers worldwide would also be discussed. I would next discuss how high dimensional spaces and the foundations which needs to be rewritten in the current scenario. How AI is getting this success in bridging the gap between the physical and AI models would also be discussed later. Finally, research perspectives in various fields would be discussed. Now, as we all know that computing paradigm is mainly divided into two paradigms till like last 70 years of its inception. First one was mainframe era, and second one is client server architecture. So mainframe era basically started in early 1950s, and you can see here this mainframe era. These are considered mainframe because of their operating systems, their middleware, their applications, and their style of uses, which are basically same as that of the larger mainframes. Here you can see that very MP 3000 systems can be configured, that again can be configured with LPARs and might run both test and production servers. This embedded system does not provide LPARs, but can accomplish much the same thing by running multiple copies of the emulators long back. The limitation of mainframe system at that time was it was dependent on the places where it resides, and if someone has to work in these mainframe servers, they has to personally visit and can work there only. Moving forward in early 90s, or you can say that after the advent of internet, when internet was discovered in 1983, client server based architecture has taken into this particular computing paradigm. This was mainly a response mechanism. The biggest facility which this client server architecture has provided was, now one should not have to visit the campuses or the premises where the data servers are stored. So with the help of internet, one can access from remote place also, and can provide all the facilities, whatever applications were there, and can work on from a remote location also. After this, in 2010, one more revolution came, and that revolution was due to the advancement in the instrumentation and interconnections that have led to the growth of our world into a society that constitutes a complex cyber physical system where everybody is connected to everything. This is known as Internet of Everything. And the computing paradigm was formed due to convergence of social mobility, analytics, and cloud technologies. The convergence of this technology has enabled us to cater out the information which already Internet of Everything has made everyone, everybody as a source of information, receiver as well as provider. With the convergence of social mobility, analytics, and cloud paradigms, AI, being data-centric approach, has witnessed its true potential when the big data has started growing in areas ranging from finance, remote sensing, healthcare, transport, earth sciences, medical sciences, and many more. So whatever you say, everywhere the data is getting generated in humongous amount in a very fast speed, and all these are constituting big data. Now, the question is, what changes this technology, what the convergence of these technologies to look forward to, and why this concept of data science, data analytics have started coming into picture when already DBMS concept was there, database management system was there, data warehousing concept was there, and data mining was available. So in coming slides, I'll answer to this question. Now, when we are talking about any of the data, this cycle, if someone has to go through all the intricacies of our data science, then we have to go through the life cycle also. And in this figure, you can see one whenever has understanding business understanding. Then leftmost part is basically part of a data analytics person, where, as per the business requirement, whatever feature engineering model training and evaluation has to be performed, the person will deploy it based on the feature engineering model which has been trained as per the requirement of the business. So this basically has given us a liberty to provide a short-term focus on what is happening inside that data and how that data could be utilized from a business point of view. Now, the right side has, when we are talking about right side, where this data equation and understanding and then complete cycle constitutes what data science life cycle is all about. So in data science life cycle, first we have to look forward to what if data is available or not. If data is available, then what is the prototype of that data? If data is not at all available, then how we can acquire the data, how we can make use of that data, what would be the behavior of data, how that data is behaving in various quantiles or quartiles, and then based on that, as well as the understanding or whatever the requirement of the business is there, then we will proceed towards the application for as far as modeling is considered. So in here you can see that if data equation and understanding is the first step, then in that also first very prominent step is identifying the data source, whether the data is residing somewhere or it is available in cloud, whether the data is already there in terms of files or already a structured database is available for that particular data. After this part is over, then next thing is, let's say if the data is getting generated with a very huge amount, then whether we can proceed it with this like real-time operations of that stream data, or we can we can wait for the batch processing. Again, what is the frequency of the data that is getting generated? Third environment, third important step of data equation understanding is identification of the environment. Whether again after processing we are storing it at certain location or we are storing it back to the cloud. How the database or data lake or data warehouse would be created, whether the amount of the data which is being generated is small, medium, or big. After this, fourth step will come, which actually is focused toward the statistics part of the data science, that is wrangling, exploration, and cleaning of the data. So once the data which we have obtained, then we will look forward to whether the data is structured or unstructured, whether data validation is required, cleaning of that particular data is required. Then let's say first step we have to demonstrate it to the customer or the client. Then is there any availability of putting that data in some sort of visualization or not? After that only what we will go do, after this again we will go for the modeling. So you can see that in between also there is a procedure of providing this as an input data to the modeling environment. Now we are when we are taking this particular presentation today in this current era, we expect that the data which is in our hand is not at all structured. What is the meaning of that? It means that the data which is in our hand belongs to a format which is known as unstructured. Unstructured means it could be textual data, it could be audio data, it could be video data, it could be stream data, it could be sensor data, it could be in terms of binary digits or many other formats. So what we have to do, we have to make a repository that will have this all the informations taken together, that could again be that could again be provided as an input to the modeling. And then again in modeling we will go for feature engineering based on whatever features are available. As I have mentioned that if it is unstructured data, then we have to apply different functions, different feature engineering algorithms to get insight from those data. So here you can see that in feature engineering, we have to transform, you have to bin, you have to identify the temporal features, we have to identify the textual images, and then based on which we will proceed with for our selection, feature selection. And based on our features, which has been identified in feature engineering steps, again, model training and model evaluation will be executed. Now, after this model evaluation, you can see that based on our scoring parameters, whatever performance evaluation metrics we have identified in identification of the better model among the models, will go for deployment. Now, what I would suggest all the researchers who are listening to this talk, that it's a myth. Everyone will tell you to follow this route, but again, whenever you are taking an example from a real life case scenario, then apart from this scoring performance, you have to find out whether its application is limited to the domain in which we are going to apply this model to. I have mentioned it, like useful to usable information has to be there. So the overall intent of a researcher or a data scientist has to have a clear-cut picture, not in terms of accuracy improvement or RMSC or R-square values, but it has to be more focused toward whether the particular model can be implemented in a real-life scenario or not. Then, based on this, we'll go for deployment. And once this deployment is over, then customer acceptance will end this journey of data science, data science lifecycle. Moving forward, if you'll see, based on what task and what artifacts has to be the role that has to be provided to the data scientist, you can see in this particular second row that at the every, like once business understanding is being done from the project lead or the project manager or your supervisor in terms of an academics, then next thing which starts like for like your role starts is data ingesting, understanding, modeling, and deployment. Again, this acceptance will come from your supervisors, your seniors, or in industry by your project lead or project manager. But you can see that every time, whatever steps has been executed in these three steps has to be presented in a very crisp manner to your superiors. Like once this data ingest and understanding is over, and there has to have the summary of the data which is being executed at your end. Once this modeling is done, then that model report has to be there in terms of performance evaluation matrices, or if in case real life scenario is available, then can you directly implement it in the real life scenario. And third thing is whatever deploying is core processor, monitoring health and matrices are there, if these can be provided in terms of dashboard. Let's say if you are for particular case scenario, number of machine learning models are performing well, then there has to have a visualization dashboard for your superior to evaluate which particular model is getting performing better than the others. So there has to have a dashboard of the same. Then again, whatever based on the evaluation from your superiors, from your supervisors, then whatever final artifacts are there that needs to be delivered for further execution. Okay, this particular part is very important for a beginner, from a beginner's point of view also, from an expert point of view also. So traditional way of solving the problems in data mining or whatever machine learning is popular nowadays has to have this particular hierarchy followed. Now, moving on to, now you can see that the convergence of this social mobility, analytics, and cloud has created data that often are represented as vectors. not only vectors, they have very large number of components also. Here comes the mathematics part, which is very crucial, because whatever has been achieved till date has mainly focused on descriptive statistics. Then whatever descriptive statistics you told, or data behavior through the statistics you mentioned it, or you say that data behavior of the particular data samples are evaluated. Next point was, for like whatever data behavior currently is there, based on that behavior we basically has forecasted the future scenarios or predicted the for future scenarios. And in other terms also it is known as predictive analytics. But here you can see that salient aspects of vectors, which is geometric and linear algebraic, are very important if you want to perform something like prescriptive analytics or preventive analytics. So what is the need of forecasting those values? If something catastrophe is going to happen, that can be restricted, that can be hampered, that can be prevented. So for that, this mathematics part of data science is very crucial. Now, here you can see that this type of data points behavior, if some for some data sets are there, then it is very hard for us researchers to identify which particular way we as a solution we have to focus on or we have to move towards. Then you can see that very large structures of these data have limitations currently in terms of applicability through deterministic methods that turns out to be prohibitively very expensive. So what is the solution of that? The solution is random walks. You already must have heard it somewhere, someplace. Stationary distributions of such walks are very important for applications ranging from web search to the simulation of the physical systems, because we are focusing towards real life scenarios. So everything, every scenario is mapped to a physical system. So that needs to be explored with the help of random walks. So I would suggest you guys to focus towards this random walks more while taking up any problem during your research area. Moving on to, again, a generalized solution would not work. So what we have to do now is we have to go for domain-centric approaches that are also gaining popularity in technical problems, whether the problem is from a medical science, whether the problem is earth sciences, whether the problem is climate uncertainties, climate extremes are there, whether drones are nowadays started getting monitored. It has been very popular. If something image processing is also there, then also we have to focus more towards domain-centric approach rather than generalized approaches. One more thing, one mistake which we all were doing from very long time was we were increasing RAM capacities in the systems, and then we are trying to provide some solutions, but in the current era of big data, input data to a problem could not be presented in random access memory. So there has to have some situations. Situation is we have to go for the streaming models as well as samplings. So what is the meaning of these two things are? Let's say this is not feasible for problems involving humongous amounts of data. Streaming models have been formulated to reflect this. Sampling also plays a very crucial role, and indeed, we have to go for the alternatives where one has to go for sampling on the go. Let's say some samples are there that randomly we have to provide it as a streaming model, and then have to check what is happening right now. So these things have to be explored more. Apart from that, identification of hyperparameters and understanding the scenarios where optimization can be expected to a good performance or on a new unseen data is very, very important. I would also suggest you guys to explore more on measures such as Vapnik Chernovsk's dimensions and algorithms such as stochastic gradient descent, boosting, deep learnings, and perceptrons from real life applications perspective also, not from performance improvement perspective. Now, you can see that whenever natural justice is there, so in any of the physical environment, natural affinity of the natural justice has to be expected to be the best solutions. So here also identification of natural affinity of the data samples to capture essential properties has to be explored more and more. So for this, I would suggest you to go for modern development in understanding unsupervised algorithms and general frameworks for identifying, for analyzing different kind of clustering problems. This has to be your prerequisite in taking up any of the solutions. Next one is sense, making sense from the data. So making sense from data is very, very important. Data science differs in data analytics in offering solutions beyond prediction or forecasting. So linear algebraic problems of making sense from data, in particular topic modeling, non-negative matrix factorizations, these type of algorithms needs to be defined in terms of learning errors and time. So I would suggest you all to focus on these of the fundamentals of the data science. Now next is high dimensional space. The, as I have mentioned, high dimensional data has become very important because of data which is being targeted nowadays because of its nature of being unstructured. So let's say if some problem is there, I would provide you a problem which I have worked on. So in Himalaya regions, what we have done, we have the satellite images of this particular Himalayan belt near to Nanda Devi bioreserves. There, we had a task of identifying the medicinal and economical plant species through the satellite image processing. So for that, what we have done is like we went to those locations, we have collected the images as well as whatever constituent of that particular species was there. So we have created the biochemical constituents of that, some biophysical parameters also. Biophysical parameters means, let's say, what is the leaf area, how big that trunk is there of a particular tree from which we are picking up the plants or whatever flowers or fruits are there. So in this manner, we have collected the data from various from many of the modes. So we have taken the GPS locations, then these biochemical constituents, then biophysical components. Then what we have done, we have taken the satellite images also. Satellite images, if some one scene are there, and those scenes are almost of 16 GB to 20 GB of capability. Next, what we have done, we flew drones there, and we have taken their RGB images also. Then we have taken the this ultraviolet signatures also. Then, with the help of that, we have taken their hyperspectral signatures also. So, hyperspectral signature is a unique characteristic of any of the species. Let's say if it is a human being, then that human being will possess some of the unique signatures. In this manner, the image the species which are present in the Himalayan species possesses unique spectral signatures. So we have consolidated all these data types, and then when we have started uh, moving toward the solutions, we have seen that a particular species, let's say our rhododendron species is very common, which is of very good medicinal values. So that particular rhododendron species, we have some 50,000 data points, and that too different things. Spectral signatures from 350 nanometer to 2500 nanometer. Again, images, RGB images, and number of pixels have been generated. So that particularly data possesses this high dimensional data characteristics. So whenever you have some data in your hand, what you have to see whether the data is high dimensional space. So then you have to see like if that n points can be generated randomly in d dimensions. If coordinate is a zero mean, Gaussian variance has to be checked whether it is unity or not. Let's say lots of dimensions are there. Then you have to identify which distances between all points with high probability, and you have to check whether the distance is same in from the all dimensions with high probability or not. Next point which you have to check is the volume of the unit ball in d dimensions. Whatever sets of points are in that particular direction has to go to zero as the dimension goes to the infinity. Then you have to plot the diagram, plot the volume of unit ball, and you have to check whether that is concentrated near surface or not. Or it is not concentrated on the surface, then whether it is concentrated at its equator or not. If these type of scenarios are fulfilling, then you are sure that this particular data is of high dimensional nature. Now, once we have the data in our hand, we have identified the fundamentals and the fundamentals have been cross-checked, then we have to start our processing. So processing, then we have to identify this, like the data which is being consolidated now is processing sparse representations characteristics, whether uncertainties are there or not, and if somehow the like some loss is being happening due to the noise incorporated during taking up the input data, then is there any possibility of data recovery or not? So here you can see that if these seven characteristics are getting fulfilled, then that could be termed as big data. And after that, the sparse representations, uncertainty handling, and data recovery has to be done. For this, data assimilation has to be, data assimilation is a form of algorithm which will provide an optimal estimate of the state variables. That would be better than the estimate obtained using data taken up individually. Again, if let's say data is of very huge, and that can you have limitations from your machine's perspective, then you have to use some lossless compression methods also, so that your model data can be reduced to half of its original size. The third one is how this uncertainty handling would be done. So for this also you have to see, let's say if large uncertainty is there in the parameterization schemes of the data models, this limited information loss could be neglected, which is happening by removing some of the data sets. Next one is, let's say there are scenarios where you can see that we have the data sets available and we can label them as per the requirement. But there are scenarios, let's say I have mentioned it loud and clear that if you are taking some of the real life problems, then chances are there that most of the data which is available would not be labeled. Let's say, when I have started something like we have started creating some of the climate extremes, and we tried exploring the labeled data set, so it was not available. So let's say if you have to determine that an image depicts a cat, which is much easier than determining that a data set reflects a drought condition, given that droughts are contingent on intensity and extent and can change according to the methods used to collect and analyze the data, that there are not enough labeled cases for training a machine learning system. So now you have your data sets with you, but proper labeling of those data sets are not there. Then what you guys will do? In that case, in those scenarios also, again, you have to make your data sets available with the help of some of the algorithms, that some of the unvised algorithms. Let's say uh, you have this matrix data, then you have the techniques also. The techniques could be, let's say SVD is there, singular value decomposition is there. It's a central tool to deal with the matrix data. So what would happen? The first principle description of the mathematics and algorithm for SVD is very important in understanding the intricacies of the data in hand. When you are applying this SVD, let's say one method is principal component analysis, PCA. So let's say if you are applying this type of principal component analysis to identify which particular data set belongs to which particular group. So in this manner, we have to move towards identification of your labeled data set for it to be provided to a model using some of the machine learning or AI principles. Next is asking about large-scale models to predict on a hyper-local level. So when I have mentioned it, like don't go for any of the performance evaluation metrics solely to identify whether that particular model is better, then at that time this particular foundation was there in my mind. So let's say your model has performed by tuning the hyperparameters, you have identified some of the great results. Now you have achieved the accuracy of 99%. But when you have started applying to a real life scenario, you saw that, oh, it has performed pathetically in that particular given real life scenario. So there is the problem. The problem lies is because every particular reason where that particular problem has to be applied has to have certain local features, local level, hyper local level features that was missed when you have trained that model with a better accuracy. So it is your responsibility as a data science researcher, as a data scientist, to create hybrid features from domain-specific handcrafted features and hand-designed features. So I have taken example here in a scenario of forecasting the rainfall. So what we have done is, like we have created some of the hand-designed features. And what is the meaning of hand and hand designed features? So hand crafted features are those features that could be accounted for dependencies in time and space. Let's say whatever daily rainfall is happening for a particular season. So for 12 months, we have identified that, okay, this much rainfall is happening in this particular scenario. Let's say summer, let's say monsoon, let's say winter, let's say spring. So they have this thing, like they have this time or space features, but they are not focusing, but the particular rainfall is happening in particular location. Let's say Bhubaneswar and Ranchi are there. So we have plotted some of the identified features like, okay, during spring, summer, monsoon, and winter, this much rainfall is happening. So this particular scenario will be identified as handcrafted features. But if we are taking the spatio-temporal dependencies also, we are taking the consideration that, okay, Ranchi is a plateau, so the chances of rainfall may vary depending on its geography, and Bhubaneswar can have more rainfall in case of some cyclonic activities happening in Bay of Bengal. So when we are mapping these three features together, so they are termed as hand design features. So in hand design features, in satellite image processing is terrain, shape, and topographical or texture features. As I mentioned, so there are different scenarios. Rainfall is happening in a certain duration, but depending on the geomorphology of the location, that could be more or less. So this should be explored using spatial and sequential learning of machine learning. So these again are very crucial. Now, when I have mentioned it, like we have to target, sorry. So we have to target whatever real life scenarios are there, and we have to map it to some of the AI models. So in past, whatever has happened, like physical modeling and AI ML were often treated as two separate entities with different paradigms as a whole. People, researchers across the world has thought like, okay, what someone has to, what this machine learning and AI has to do with the real life application. Real life is all motivated or is driven through the physics or the chemistry of the nature. Then one was theory driven and other was data driven. So AI and ML, machine learning, is it is data driven. So more and more data, more performance would be improved. And other was theory driven. Okay, inside this type of scenario there, let's say if it is very hot today and winds are not flowing, that there are chances that it will rain. So these are the theoretical concepts. So the potential of theoretical models in extrapolating beyond observations and the potential of the data models in unearthing the hidden patterns has to be utilized to construct whatever past scenarios are there. Now, this particular slide shows that there are chances of linkages between the physical model and the AI ML models in terms of parameterization. At parameterization, as I have mentioned you, that handcrafted features were already there, so hand designed features, like more parameters needs to be, so that this AI model will perform in a more efficient manner. Addition of more parameters at the hyperlocal layer, such as topography, terrain change in temperature. Apart from that, what was the geographical conditions of that particular area? Let's say how much urbanizations happened, how much migration is there. So these, or addition of these type of parameters would reconstruct and quantifications of the real life scenarios. And this again will help us in building novel approaches in understanding what actually is being driven, what by physics now can be identified and explored using AI models. Here I have taken an example, a beautiful example, which we are right now doing our research work into. So here you can see that overall our objective is build up of right from this beginning of the data science life cycle. So we are discovering, we are storing the value and then preparing whether the data is available or not. And then based on this data, whatever objectives are there is being followed in terms of data assimilation, pre-processing, model building. Then whatever data behavior is there, descriptive and predictive climate extreme analytics, based on whatever output we are receiving from descriptive and predictive analytics, we are putting it into preventive and prescriptive analytics. Lots of optimization, lots of mathematical theories are being incorporated into some of the AI ML models. And then finally, what we are checking, we are identifying whether the thing which has been, whether the output which we are receiving from preventive and prescriptive analytics can be forwarded to the users there. Let's say some people are there, and let's say some scenario is there, something some more rainfall is situation is happening. So can we provide them the information to in their mobiles in through SMSs or some WhatsApp alerts and or not? So again, you can see that natural language processing based information extraction and dialogue generation is happening. So overall, you have I would request all of you to uh, whatever problems you guys are taking, just take it from the scratch to the end. So here also you can see that we have whatever problems comes in our way can be distributed into classification, anomaly detections, regressions, state predictions. So again, you will see it here that everything has to be there, that whether the solution existing solutions are efficient or not, and based on that, again this flow chart will proceed. So moving forward, I have taken some of the research perspectives in some of the areas. Let's say one area is atmospheric science. So here I could cite one paper from one Sagnik, Professor Sagnik is there in IIT Delhi. So what he's doing is like there are fine metric particulate matters PM 2.5. You must have observed. We will listen to in many of the TV debates nowadays. So it's a major criteria pollutant affecting the environment, health, as well as climate. So in India, where ground data of PM 2.5 is very scarce, it's very important to have a database at a high spatial resolution for an efficient air quality management plan. So here you can see that the authors have collected the data from various satellites and have presented a high resolution like satellite images that can identify, distinguish 1 kilometer, the resolution that can be provided at a high resolution till 1 kilometer, ambient PM 2.5 database spanning 2 decades for India. So 2000 to 2019. So here in the right side, you can see that two different scenarios has been provided and from 2000 to 2009 and then 2010 to 2019. So what they have done is they have converted aerosol optical depth from moderate. So one a modest satellite is there, and various many of the algorithms they have implemented. Again, they have utilized the basic concept. So they have started collecting the database. They have created a state-of-the-art repository, and then they have provided various other models. Then, based on their performance evaluation, sorry, so based on the performance simulation they have implemented it in the real life scenarios and have generated the maps for the same. So here you can see that like like already whatever this PM 2.5 coverage was there in 2000 to 2009 has been increased, has increased in the upcoming like from 2010 to 2019. The like how the particular this is the work in which I was also a part and has been published in scientific report Nature Journal. So there, what we have done, we have utilized the concept of geoinformatics, then remote sensing, then have taken the help of some of the medical practitioners also, have taken a team which is working in the atmospheric sciences, me as a part of their data science team. So we all have checked, right, like what in top 10 like most populous countries in the world, how this COVID virus has emerged as a global threat. Apart from threat, not to the human health, but also to the global economy, and how their particular environment has varied as far as lockdowns were has been this restricted this community transmission. So here again, we have followed the same life cycle of data science and have resulted in identifying what is the aerosol absorbing index, tropospheric NO2 concentration, and sulfur dioxide column density was there. Next is again the example which I have mentioned it you in the Himalayan region. So for the same species, rhododendron arboreum, what we have done, whatever traditional some entropy based models were there, we have provided convolution neural network modeling based identification of those medicinal plants in the Himalayan region. So this particular region is Almora region of Uttarakhand, where we have identified. So you can see that the presence of that rhododendron species as detected by this convolution CNN network is being provided here. So here you can see that the identification, this red shows that these are the areas where we can have more occurrences of these this rhododendron species there. So here also what we have done, like we have integrated various ecological and atmospheric characteristics for biodiversity management. And we found that it is very fundamental for long-term ecosystem conservation and whatever forest management strategies has to be applied. And that has to be done in the era of climate change. So the explicit modeling of regional ecological responses, their impact on the individual species, these has to be identified for for applying some of the adaptation strategies. So we have this correct word. What we have done, we had identified or predicted the regional distribution of rhododendron arboreum. Again, I have mentioned it. It's a medicinal plant species which is very like it can be found in various of the Himalayan regions, and it is of very high this health benefits are a lot. So this species distribution modeling, earlier it was done with the help of some of the entropy models, but we have applied CNN in this for identification, and we have the results in terms of presence, in terms of usability was very good. So the model has performed on a evaluation metrics point of view also very good. And when we have cross-checked it with the prediction which we have done through our modeling, has been like have achieved almost accuracy of 97%. Next, again, one research perspective in hyperspectral data analytics is there. So when we talk about hyperspectral data analytics, it's a sensor, hyperspectral sensor that captures very good bands. So the interband information overlapping enhances redundancy in hyperspectral data. This is what makes the identification of application specific optimal bands very essential for obtaining accurate information about the like whatever forest whatever foliar information is there. So this particular work is being done again from our lab only in uh, Bhubaneswar, one forest reserve is there in Gujarat. So, this study investigated the performance of three novel band selection algorithms. So, one algorithm was chi-squared statistics-based attribute evaluator, recursive elimination of features-based attribute evaluator, and correlation-based attribute subset evaluator. So, these algorithms are already very popular in identifying some of the structured data. But what we have done, we have implemented in a scenario where it has not been explored previously. So here, last example which I have taken is from the climate networks. So again, this is a work from Professor Subal Ghosh from IIT Bombay. So what he has done is he has utilized the concept of networking, graph theory, and he has tried mapping this particular Himalayan region into a climate network. So the Himalayan ecosystem is a global biodiversity hotspot and a vital component of the global water cycle. So what earlier was the like the relationship between these particular this biological, ecological, and climate variables were missing. So he has utilized this concept, and he has identified that the system as a network have non-linear couplings, and this can provide a better dynamics of whether the information which is started from one node to another can or is possible to be reaching to the next level node or not. So here, what he has done is he has utilized this information theoretic approach on the variables. The variables which he has taken was precipitation, temperature. Again, some of the terms which I'm pretty sure you as a data scientist must not be aware, but as a ecologist, the person has to have core knowledge of those things. So what you can see that it's an amalgamation of persons from various areas. So they has like someone has their own expertise in certain areas, They could come to you, can provide you some feedbacks or some of the things which they want to explore. Then it is your responsibility to provide an effective solution. So what as a data scientist or as a solution provider, you have to listen to their basics, have to identify whether any of the techniques are there that can be provided as a solutions to them or not. So now you can see that data science applications have lots of research perspectives in many of the area. So these are the references which I have utilized for my presentations. And okay, this ends my presentation. Now, if I would be very happy if you guys have any questions in hand. Yeah, even basics of the questions would work.
Okay, sir. So I want to ask one question that actually I have always come across these two terms as test data and training data. So how are they similar or how are they different? Means I want to know the.
So it's like see, let's say you have some data, and now you have this responsibility of providing some models to get the solution, but where you can test this data, like there has to have some data sets on which you can validate your proposed model or not. So for that purpose only, this particular model has this particular concept has been provided. Let's say you have 10 100 data set or data points, then the model which you are building would be trained on only 70 data points. Once that particular model is ready, now that remaining 30 data points will act as a testing set for you. So the proposed model, which has been generated for on the 70 data points, will now be applied on those 30 data points to validate whether the proposed model is working fine or not.
Okay, so basically those 70 points are being used for making the model and the rest of the things is where
Yeah.
we are validating.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Anyway, if someone is hesitant to ask also, so you guys can go to my profile and can raise questions or through email anytime. Yeah. Sure. That always is welcomed. So it's good to have this data science community to be bloomed, and it has to grow exponentially. So it would be good if this type of collaboration is possible. Yeah, even I would like to thank Dr. Payal and Mrinal for providing my name, like suggesting my name to you guys. And yeah, thank you. Thank you. Okay, see you guys soon then. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a pleasure. Okay, okay.